What's up guys, it's Ryan and you're watching Ryan Vision. Make sure you check out projectzj.com for all the Jeep videos. Make sure you like and subscribe for more videos. Today what I'm going to go over is a new steering setup on the modified Dana 30 axle. I'm going to let you know how the axle's been modified, especially as related to the steering setup. And then I'm going to go over in detail the steering setup. Okay, let's get right into it. Basically, everything is using Ruff Stuff Heim joints. I have no tie rod ends on here. The reason I'm doing that is I just have a lot more confidence in these. I've had the worst luck with anything that has like one of those rubber boots that you put grease in, kind of like a ball joint. I hate those. I always have problems with those getting cracked or torn and leaking grease. These things are awesome. It's just, you know, metal on metal. There's some material in between for lubrication. I spray them with some lubrication. They're awesome. Yeah, sometimes you can get some noise out of them, like you'll hear them clunk every once in a while. It's no big deal. It's an off-road rig. Get over it. So this on this side, the driver's side, is a factory knuckle for the Dana 30, and I've been basically I've just bored everything out to 3/4. So that's 3/4 grade 8 bolt going through there. So it's a 7/8 inch Heim with a 3/4 bore, and then all the tubing is from Ruff Stuff Specialties also. I just kind of lucky they're local to me. Can go over there anytime, pick stuff up, and just act like a kid in a candy store walking through the shop. So this is all 1.5 inch, 1/4 inch wall DOM tubing, super strong. And this side also, this is the TeraFlex knuckle. So it's a crossover. They call it a high steer knuckle. It's basically a crossover. It's real similar to what you would do with like a WJ knuckle swap, but you don't have to run any spacers. There's no welding or anything like that. But what I did is the holes on the knuckle, when you get it from TeraFlex, this hole down here for the tie rod and this hole up here for the drag link, they're pre-drilled straight through for 7/8 inch because they come with these sleeves. I think they're tapered sleeves for a tie rod end. So you know, they bring it down to a smaller diameter. But what I ended up doing is I contacted KRF Machine, a machine shop. They do aerospace parts, and I told them, I said, hey, I've got a knuckle with 7/8 inch bore, and I need to bring it down to 3/4 bore so I can run 3/4 grade 8 hardware on 7/8 inch Heims. He said no problem. He did some heat treated, you know, steel, really super high strength stuff, and it was so precise that I had to actually use a hammer to tap it into the holes of the knuckle, so they're not going anywhere. And then what I did to keep them in place even more, to make sure the sleeves don't come out, is I have 3/4 Weld Washers. These are also from Ruff Stuff Specialties. That way they've sandwiched in the sleeve. The sleeve cannot come out ever of that knuckle. So same thing down here. The Heim itself and the nut actually hold the sleeve into the knuckle, so that allowed me to run Heims. So don't get discouraged if you're looking at the TeraFlex and you want to run Heims. You can do it. Contact me on Instagram, and you can go to projectzj.com to get the link to the Instagram, and I'll put you in touch with KRF Machine, and they can definitely make you these sleeves so you can run Heim joints. So the tie rod is over the knuckle, and there was some modification we had to do to the axle. You can see this tie rod has no bends in it. It's a straight bar all the way across. So what we had to do is, under this factory coil base, you can see the coil used to sit down here on the factory, just, you know, axle, your stock axle, and this used to come out further. So what Mitch and I did is we actually just cut those back and then went to Ruff Stuff Specialties and got these coil plates. It's basically a 3-piece kit, because you get the base plate, you get a locator plate in the middle here, and that actually needs to be welded down. It's welded on the other side. That keeps it centered, keeps the coil centered on the plate. And then there's an upper plate that grabs onto the coil, and then you have a 3/4 grade 8 bolt going through and a nut on the bottom side there. So excuse me. So what that does is it actually raises up the coil, the base of the coil, and I want to say I measured it one time, it was like 1.5 inches. So that's what I was talking about in the other video. You know, even though I'm running a 4.5 inch ZJ coil, it's actually, you know, probably like a 6 inch lift up here with just the coil base included in that number. So kind of a cool modification. You know, it's definitely really sturdy. It gets the coil out of your way for this over the knuckle setup. It's been working out great. I like how it looks too. So the other thing we did is obviously, you can see we went to the bottom of the knuckle here, on this one I'm talking. And the reason for that is if I back up here a little bit, look how parallel the drag link and the track bar are. They're like identical angles, and that's what you want. You want to keep the angles as close as possible. You want to keep them in front of each other as close as possible, and you want to try to keep the length as close as possible. My track bar is definitely a few inches shorter than my drag link, but there was just no way around that right now, other than if we were to kick out that frame side. But you know, you run into issues with the clearance on the coils and things like that. So that's why I went to the bottom of the knuckle. And then this track bar bracket on the axle side, this is also from Ruff Stuff Specialties. It's adjustable. You can see it's got 3 holes there. We went to the upper hole. So that's another Heim joint from Ruff Stuff Specialties. Same tubing material for the track bar. And I ran a Heim joint up here. Now the frame side, I'm still running a Rusty's Off-Road HD frame bracket. And this has been great. I haven't had any problems with it. All my other Rusty's stuff I got rid of a long time ago. Honestly, it was crap. I wasn't impressed by any of it. So stick with Iron Rock Off-Road, Ruff Stuff Specialties. I can't really say much about Rusty's other than they make a nice frame side track bar mount. So again, Heim joint in there, and of course the Pitman arm, I'm running a Heim joint on there, and that's a 3/4 bolt as well. So you got to do some drilling to 3/4 to make all this work. And this guy right here is called a safety washer. So basically, if this Heim joint ever comes apart, this safety washer's diameter is bigger than the outer diameter, or the inner diameter, I should say, of this Heim joint. So if that ball inside came apart, the ball that allows it to do misalignment, if it came apart, this washer, it would catch it. It wouldn't let the drag link just fall off, and then you'd have no steering. So that's definitely an important thing to have. You can see that I've also got that over here, so that end couldn't come off either. Okay, so I do need to do a lock nut on the bottom of the drag link bolt. Right now it's just a regular nut, but there's a ton of red Loctite on there, so don't worry, I will make it home. Also, my buddy Chad just helped me out with this. Oh, and I gotta say, huge thanks to Mitch Mitre, who just started his own business. And you know, it's called Metalcraft Off-Road Innovation. He's doing some awesome stuff right now. He made all of these links, all of them. He did all the welding, and you know, he drills it out where the tube adapter goes into the tube. He drills out a hole so he can see it, and he puts a weld in there, and then puts a nice bead all the way around. He's a perfectionist. He does an awesome job, and he's doing some awesome things. Like right now, he just did a completely badass belly skid for a CJ7. That's a show-winning rig for one of my buddies down in my hometown, and it's just awesome. The control arms are integrated into the belly skid and everything. So again, get on Instagram, find me on there, projectzj.com with a 0 instead of COM. The link's on the website, and you'll find Mitch on there real quick. That guy can hook it up. He's got a CNC plasma machine. He welds everything himself. You can buy kits that you weld yourself. Awesome dude, very talented. He's a perfectionist. He's a wheeler. He knows what wheelers need. So keep that in mind. He did so much work on this with me. I really appreciate it, Mitch. So another thing we did is my buddy Chad, we just threw this on real quick. Right now it's just a basically a bolt welded to the tie rod and another bolt welded to the axle, because I just wanted to test out a steering stabilizer and see if this would help things even more. I've been doing things like dialing in air pressure on the tire, dialing in the alignment, you know, the toe and the caster. Watch the other video I just did on the getting rid of the caster plate on the Iron Rock off-road kit. So the caster's dialed in, alignment's dialed in, and this steering stabilizer made a huge difference. Guys, a lot of people will talk crap about steering stabilizers. Here's the fact. Since like the 60s probably, maybe even earlier, any solid axle vehicle with big tires on it came from the factory engineers with a steering stabilizer, which is actually called a steering dampener on it. And that's because it helps. It's a necessary piece for a really dialed in steering kit. You know, it's not always used to mask problems. I can tell you this steering kit has 0 problems. This is done right, the geometry's right, the parts are heavy duty, there's no undesired movement in the system. But this thing helps. When I'm out on the highway with 35-inch tires, this thing provides a little resistance. So when I hit a bump, it doesn't make, you know, the whole rig want to change directions or anything like that. It just absorbs the bump just like a shock absorber. And, you know, if you want to test it out, hop on a dirt bike without a steering dampener and go ride some rutted out trail, and then hop on a dirt bike that has a steering dampener, ride the same trail, and it's night and day. Same principle on this. So don't be afraid of putting a steering stabilizer on. I know it's kind of ugly, but, you know, I'm going to paint all this stuff black. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to paint the stabilizer black or leave it white and red, because right now it does match the Doge-Tech shocks with the white with the red bushing. So we'll see. But I'm telling you guys, makes a difference. So definitely consider this if you're having any handling issues. So in a nutshell, that's the steering setup. Some other things that were done to the front axle while I'm talking about it. The only modification done to clear the steering was cutting the front of those, you know, the coil bases I showed you, and raising the coils up with the Ruff Stuff plates. But the other thing was the factory track bar bracket that used to be down here. That had to come off too. It stuck out. It was in the way. When you would turn lock to lock, you would hit the tie rod on it. The other thing you got to keep in mind, it really matters which differential cover you use. You can see how close I am to the Solid Axle Industries differential cover, but it doesn't hit. I can go lock to lock and not hit that. And you can see from the front, it's the way that diff cover is shaped. It goes back, and this solid flat part that sticks out the most is under the tie rod if you go over the knuckle. So if you're wanting to run this kind of setup, keep in mind it may not clear. It may, I don't know what you know, cover you're running. It may not clear, but I can vouch that this Solid Axle Industries cover, it clears this type of setup. Okay, so this has been working out great. I already tested the flex in both directions, made sure the straight track bar wasn't going to hit the oil pan. I've had no clearance issues, no more binding issues with the misalignment joints on the Heims. They used to, at full flex, they would bind because I didn't have that higher drag link mounting point over there, but the TeraFlex knuckle took care of that. So now I can flex the crap out of this thing. None of the Heim joint misalignment angles max out. It's absolutely dialed. Cannot wait to wheel this on the Rubicon this trip. Also, on this front axle, it has Iron Rock off-road axle shafts in it. They call it their almost alloy kit. Basically, it's XJ U-joint shafts, but they have Spicer 760X U-joints in them, and the end caps are welded in. The number one thing that causes U-joints to fail is when the ears flex and, you know, allows movement and vibration, everything like that. So the welded end caps prevents that ear flex, which keeps the U-joint, you know, life. And a Spicer joint's going to last a long time anyways. So the only downside people say about this kit is you can't easily change a U-joint. You have a U-joint problem, you got to cut off that, you know, almost alloy kit. But Iron Rock Off-Road's been running these for years. I've been running them for years. I've never had a U-joint fail. Those Spicer 760X just keep going. So I have those on both sides, and I carry my stock axle shafts as spares on the trail in case I ever do manage to break one, but so far has not happened. Also inside the Dana 30, I have Iron Rock Off-Road sleeve kit. It makes the axle tube, you know, twice as thick, super beefy, so you don't have to worry about the housing flexing at all. You know, you can even put a jack on the tube that normally you'd be kind of scared to. It's pretty weak, but with the sleeves in there, no problem. You can jack it up where you need to. So it just gives you more peace of mind as well. This axle also has brand new Synergy ball joints on it and brand new unit bearings on it. I went with Timken. They actually, one of those blew out early, so right now I've just got Duralast in here. I'm going to see how those last. You never know. Stuff like Timken and Moog, I'm hearing they're getting bought out and everything's starting to be made in China, so you know, I might even be better off with the Duralast and the lifetime warranty and just swap them out as I need to until I do the 1-ton swap. I do have a 14-bolt axle for the rear. I'm going to build that first, and then I'll do a Dana 60 high pinion kingpin for the front, build that out, and then we'll do a swap to at least 38-inch tires and redo all the suspension and steering as needed to make that work. So that's pretty much, I think, everything I wanted to cover on basically the front axle mods and the steering setup. Absolutely awesome steering setup. Definitely get a hold of Ruff Stuff, get you some tubing, Don't forget the tube adapters, the Heim joints, the jam nuts, and all your grade 8 hardware. Get a hold of all of that. Get a hold of a buddy, or if you can weld, awesome. And just take all your measurements, get it welded up, get that track bar bracket on there, get this TeraFlex knuckle, or do the WJ knuckle swap. The one thing on the WJ knuckle, I hear you might have to run a spacer, and that may involve welding to the cast, so be careful with this. The TeraFlex one, it's pricey, but it's completely bolt-on, so keep that in mind, and it does work with ABS if you're running ABS. So awesome setup, guys, couldn't be happier. Big thanks to Mitch, Niner Nate, you know, everybody who helped with this. Chad with the steering stabilizer, all you guys have been awesome, and also Chad with the caster fix there. You guys have been awesome. This thing handles like a dream. It's never driven as good as it does right now. Super happy with it. Can't wait to wheel it on a Rubicon this year and really, you know, put it through the test. I know it's gonna do great. Last Rubicon trip, I did not turn a single wrench on this rig. I don't think I even got like a screwdriver out. This thing's just so dialed in for that trail, and that's what I built it for. If you go back to the first video, this whole build started because we went on the Rubicon and it kicked our ass. We were unprepared, the rig was unprepared, and this whole build has been about making a rig that could go out and do the Rubicon trail without any worries, and, you know, help other rigs out as needed, you know, tow them, winch them, whatever, and not have to turn wrenches, even though I've always got tools, always have spare parts, always have, you know, a million things in the back, the air compressor and everything else, tow straps. So we're prepared for anything, but we've built a rig that's capable enough to go out and just have a good time without worrying about anything. So stay tuned for more videos. Check out projectzj.com and make sure you hit me up on Instagram. See ya.